Yes. Good evening to all the participants. I am Dr. Ravish, Professor of Community Medicine at KIMS Bangalore and Treasurer APCRI. Welcome all of you to this online symposium on passive immunization against rabies on the occasion of World Rabies Day 2020. This symposium is organized by Association for Prevention and Control of Rabies in India, APCRI, which is a more than 22-year-old association committed to the elimination of rabies from India. With the support of Serum Institute of India Private Limited, which is the largest manufacturer of vaccines in the world and the producer of first RMAP, that is rabies monoclonal antibodies, available in the world as RabiShield for passive immunization against rabies. This symposium will focus on the advances and significance of passive immunization in rabies post-exposure prophylaxis, which is life-saving in all category 3 exposures. Since the administration of any vaccine stimulates production of neutralizing antibodies and protective level of antibodies are seen only after 7 to 14 days after the initial dose of vaccine. Therefore, it is important to protect during this window period of 7 to 14 days, and infiltration of rabies monoclonal antibodies or rabies immunoglobulins into and around all the bite wounds will neutralize the virus at the site of bite and thus saves the life of the bite victim. In this regard, we have the eminent speakers for today's evening symposium. Professor M.K. Sudarshan, an eminent personality in the field of rabies prevention across the globe. Dr. D.H. Ashwath Narayana, President of APCRI, with immense clinical research background. And Dr. Prasad Kulkarni, the most experienced medical director and a clinical pharmacologist for rabies biologicals from the pharmaceutical company. First, we begin the symposium. It is a request to all the participants to type their questions in the chat box so that it can be taken up one by one at the end of the session. Till that time, kindly mute the systems, please. We will start the symposium. First, we will welcome the first speaker. I welcome the first speaker, Dr. M.K. Sudarshan sir, founder, president and mentor, APCRI and Rabies in Asia Foundation. He is a member of expert consultations on rabies, World Health Organization, the headquarters. He was the Dean and Principal and Professor of Community Medicine. Now he is retired from KIMS Bangalore. He has more than 100 publications and is also the recipient of B.C. Roy Award of the Government of Karnataka and Indian Medical Association. Sir was the project lead and principal investigator for both the WHO APCRI National Multicentric Survey. Till date, there are only 2 national-wide survey has been done, and for both, Sir is the project lead. So we welcome Dr. Sudarshan sir. Sir, it is over to you, sir, to continue. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Ravish, for a detailed introduction to the program and also telling all the things about the past of me and also a few nice words. Thank you very much. And I think I will straight away go to the presentation. And so this presentation and this symposium is organized in the context of the 14th World Rabies Day, that is due on 28th of September, day after tomorrow. And we have a goal of having zero human rabies that is transmitted by dogs by 2030. And the title of my presentation is Passive Immunization Needs to Play an Active Role Too. So this is the title of my presentation, and I hope all are able to see the slide. Can I get a confirmation? Is everybody able to see the slide?
Yes, sir. It
Yeah,
is.
thank you, thank you, thank you. So World Rabies Day commemorates the death anniversary of Louis Pasteur, who lived from 27th December 1822 to 28th September 1895. In fact, when the centenary ceremony of commemorating the death of Louis Pasteur was held at Institut Pasteur in Paris, France, I was also invited and I was a part of the 3-day program. So that is in brief. And World Rabies Day, I will tell a little more about it in the subsequent slide. And this is the photograph of the late scientist.
So can you go in slideshow mode, please?
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Now, World Rabies Day is the first and only global day of action and awareness for rabies prevention. And it is an opportunity to unite as a community by helping individuals, non-governmental organizations, and governments to connect and share their work. And as I told you that this World Rabies Day is the 14th World Rabies Day, and the first World Rabies Day was held on 8th of September 2007. For some reason, it was there on 8th of September 2007. But anyway, now it is from subsequent years, it has been changed to 28th of September. This year's theme focuses on vaccination and collaboration. So if you see here, it is end rabies, vaccinate and collaborate. So in brief, the theme reminds us of key current issues in rabies elimination, namely, as I told you, it is zero human rabies by 2030, that is transmitted to humans by dogs. And the World Rabies Day is organized and collaborated by Global Alliance for Rabies Control, an international non-governmental organization known as GARC. And vaccinate, collaborate in the context of this year's World Rabies Day. It is importance of dog rabies vaccination, because we will have to prevent the source of infection. And 97% of human rabies in India is due to dog rabies spillover. That is following bites by dogs to humans. So we have to prevent rabies occurring in the source, that is in the dogs. So that's why dog rabies vaccination assumes importance, and the veterinarians come to the forefront. And if they can check rabies in the source, then we will not have rabies in humans. But as of now, it is occurring from dogs to humans, and as a result, we have to give rabies post-exposure prophylaxis in humans who are bitten by rabid dogs. And there is a need for a united effort towards achieving elimination of this transboundary disease. Wherever land boundaries are there between the states or between the countries, neither the dog nor the virus has any boundary sense. They cross the boundaries and they spread the disease, just as it is happening along the India-Nepal border is one example, just I am giving it. Now, now our focus today is on passive immunization. And so in that context, just let me refresh some basics. Immunity is our defense to any infection. And this defense to infection could be innate or inherent, or it could be adaptive or acquired. So either it is intrinsic or innate, or it is adaptive or acquired immunity. And what is not intrinsic and what is not innate has to be acquired. And how is it acquired? To through routes. One is a natural route, that is passive maternal antibodies. I am not going into details. Even in the dogs, the maternal antibodies of a rabid dog to the puppy, it transfers. And so otherwise, active means it is active infection. So now it is not the antibody, it is the infection. Now, passive is maternal, yeah. Artificial passive transfer is the antibody transfer that occurs both in humans and in the dogs. And the artificial active is the vaccination. So, what we need to remember is here comes the passive immunization is here, whether it is RIG or whether it is monoclonal antibody, it comes here, and this is with reference to the vaccine, rabies vaccine. Now, this is another important slide which we need to keep in mind why passive rabies immunization is important and vaccine alone is not adequate. To repeat, why RIG and RMAPs are important and rabies vaccine alone are not sufficient in bleeding wounds in category 3 exposures. Now, here I will explain this quickly. Here is the rabies virus entry or the rabies virus concentration, and this is actually the days of vaccination. And the incubation period is usually anywhere around 5 days to ordinarily 2 years, and sometimes it could be over 8 years also. But anyway, we'll take it. This is a slide borrowed. So even in India, we will take it as 30 days is the incubation. That is the time interval between a rabid animal bite in a human and then onset of hydrophobia or clinical rabies. So it is about 30 days or about a month. So why this period we need to know is there is what is known as prophylaxis window. So what does that mean is when there is a bleeding wound, we need to neutralize the virus after the wound management by infiltrating the wound with rabies immunoglobulin or rabies monoclonal antibody. In a sense, even RMAPs or RIG, just for our understanding. So we need to inject it because the virus, once when it is introduced, when the vaccine is given 037, it takes about 7 days for the vaccine induced antibodies to appear and then slowly it crosses over. Whereas if you, and this particular window of 7 days is very crucial because the incubation period could be as short as 5 days. So in the severely exposed individuals, vaccine severely exposed means not very severely bitten, even a small bleeding wound in a strict sense is severely exposed. A small bleeding wound is also a category 3 exposure, and vaccine alone is not sufficient, and passive immunization is life-saving because if you see here, it starts from 7th day as a vaccine response, antibody response, if you see here, and this particular period is the window period. It is very, very dangerous. So we need to introduce immediate protection through passive rabies immunization, and it appears immediately within a few hours, and then slowly, of course, due to various factors, it gets eliminated. But by the time the active immune response following vaccination picks up, this immunization, passive one, covers the window period. So this needs to be kept in mind. If passive immunization is not done, active immunization is only done, vaccine is given, then this window period is not covered. The incubation periods is there, and after about 30, 35 days, here it is 35 days, we'll take it as 30 days, the illnesses will start. Okay. Then once rabies encephalitis is there, we all know that there is no cure. So now next is how rabies passive immunization, that is RIG and RMAP works. This also we need to understand why injecting into the wounds is important. See, when there is a bite and a breach in the skin and the dermis, and then the saliva containing the virus is injected into the tissues, these are rabies viruses. Through some dynamics, they move to the free nerve ending. They are neurotropic. They have an affinity, and through a mechanism of chemotaxis and other consideration factors, they move towards a free nerve ending, and then they enter through a neuromuscular junction. So they get latched on to a free nerve ending. So they may be latent here for some time, or they may multiply in the local muscle in a slow, steady way, and then still they ultimately enter through a free nerve ending. So it is very important that this entry into a free nerve ending is blocked. So here we see RAG, RMAP is being injected into the wound, and it appears here and it blocks and neutralizes the virus and prevents the entry of the virus into the nerve ending. So thus prevents the rabies viral nerve infection and aborts a possible rabies encephalitis. Now, what are the different rabies immunoglobulins that are available? Broadly, I think most of you know this, but to refresh some youngsters or some who need a kind of an update is there are different equine rabies immunoglobulins that are available. One is from the Government Institute, CRI, Kasoli, Himachal Pradesh. It is known as anti-rabies serum, and this is from there are 3 ERAGs that are available from different sources in the private sector. So that is of equine origin, horse origin. Now this is of human rabies immunoglobulin. The ERAGs are all indigenously, all these are they are all produced in India, whereas the human rabies immunoglobulins are all imported. So these are the 3 HRAGs that are imported. They are very expensive. I'll come to that. So passive immunization in a nutshell is administered, as I have told you, it is most advantageous and most beneficial if it is injected as early as possible, immediately after a rabies exposure, certainly just before or shortly after the first dose of anti-rabies vaccine. However, if the RAG is not, or RMAP is not available in the interior place or for whatsoever reason, it can be safely administered till 7th day after starting the rabies vaccine. So full dose or as much as possible should be administered into and around the wound site. And this is a old recommendation. I have borrowed the slide. And the new recommendation is there is very little benefit that is accrued following any systemic injection of any leftover RAG or RMAP once all sufficient wound infiltration has been done. So that I will come in the subsequent, or we can take it up during question and answer. This is a old slide. I will go into the next one. So coming to the rabies passive immunization in India, the summary. So I told you that a few types of ARIG that are available, and this is the recommended. It is available. This is the recommended dosage, and this is the potency or the strength that is available, and the cost and all, it is most of you are using it, you know that. And this is an approximate cost for an adult who weighs around about 75 kg. And HRAG, if you see here, these are all some approximate cost. Don't go strictly by the values of money that is given here. So you can say that HRAG is around 25 times costlier than ERIG. And there are two types of RMAPs are now available in India. Over 2 years back, the Serum Institute of India was the first pharmaceutical company in the world to indigenously produce and then launch a rabies monoclonal antibody, and it has stood the test of time for over 2 years, and it has been found to be very safe and efficacious, and the cost of it is about 5 times the cost of ERIG, but please remember that it is 1/5 the cost of HRIG. And the latest and the most recent RMAP that is to be launched is from Zydus, and it is 40 IU and potency 600 IU, and it is available in a 2.5 ml, this one, and the cost will be around 6,000 rupees. So what I would like to convey from my personal experience is, I think it is time that we use more and more of passive immunization, and particularly use RMAP, which are safer, which are efficacious, and I think a time should come when we will stop importing HRIG, and in the long run, because of various other issues of avoiding bleeding of horses for producing ERIG, in the long run, I think rabies monoclonal antibodies have a good future, and they have come to stay. So here in this slide, what I am showing is even slightly reddish slides with a clear breach in the dermis and a slight ooze of blood is a category 3 rabies exposure, and they require infiltration by RMAP or RAG, and even small, if you see here, they would have cleaned it at home and the bleeding would have stopped, but even such wounds require RAG or RMAP. And of course, these are all very clear bite wounds, and they should not be ignored by giving only vaccine. There are instances where many have died. We have the figures, but I will not go into the details, where only vaccine was given, and in a category, in many category 3 bites, and patients have succumbed due to rabies or non-use of passive immunization. So this is a way of this. Here it shows how RMAP or RAG has to be injected. So some insights into passive rabies immunization in India. Use of RAG. We did two WHO, APCRI, National Multicentric surveys. The first one was in 2003, when at that time we found 2% use of RAG. There was no RMAP, and in it is not 2017. Sorry, it is 2017. It is increased to 18%. Majority of human rabies deaths are due to non-use of passive rabies immunization. This is an observation which we have recorded in the first survey. And the reasons are one is many doctors do not know about the product itself and the importance of passive rabies immunization. And there is a general apathy to use it because it is a very messy and time-consuming procedure. And the Many are also afraid of using RIG or ERIG for fear of reactions, so that is adverse events, which is not true. And we have used it for over 25 years in KIMS Hospital. There has been no death due to anaphylaxis, and only, as I think, 1 or 2 cases of acute serum sickness was there, and they were managed. There has been no death due to any anaphylaxis. And infiltration of wounds with rig is definitely, RMAB is life-saving. And WHO in 2018 and Government of India in 2028 have concluded and recommended that systemic injection of RIGs and RMAPs is of little benefit. So this has gone on record. What is pending is its incorporation in the product insert that comes from the pharmaceutical companies. So it has to be a triangulation between the Drug Controller General and the producers of these products. And RIGs and RMAPs are quite safe, and anaphylaxis in RIG is very, very rare. The latest documentation is 1 out of 40,000 cases. ERIG. Hence, refer without fail for RIGs, RMAPs in all category 3 cases. And there are instances where even in category 2, we will have to give passive immunization, like where persons are on immunosuppressant, or the person has some immunosuppressant condition. In such patients, even in category 2, because they may not satisfactorily respond to vaccine, so passive immunization will be is recommended. So in certain category 2 cases, also we need to give passive immunization. And if passive immunization is not done, only vaccine is used, and then the chances of fatality is high. So with this, I conclude, and I thank Serum Institute of India for giving me this opportunity to speak in this webinar on the eve of World Rabies Day. And I thank all those present here for patient hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now we will move on to the next speaker, Dr. D.H. Ashwath Narayana, the President of APCRI, and he is also the Executive Director of Rabies Initia Foundation. Presently, he is the Medical Superintendent of KIMS Hospital, Bangalore, and Professor of Community Medicine in the same medical college, who has got immense clinical research background and more than 75 publications. He was the project coordinator for both the WHO APCRI National Multicentric Surveys and member of expert group for national guidelines for rabies prophylaxis 2019, the recent one, under NRCP. And he is also the member of National Center for Disease Control, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. I welcome Dr. D.H. Ashwath Narayan, sir. Sir, please take over the session. Thank you. Ashwath, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to all of you and my fellow speakers, Professor Sudarshan and Dr. Prasad Kulkarni. And thanks, Ravish, for nice words. And I'm here to share some details about the new products, that is rabies monoclonal antibodies, which is come up for passive immunization, new tool against rabies as a passive immunization. Some important things to know about rabies is you know that rabies is almost always fatal. That's very, very important. And in our clinical practice, more than 85% of the cases reported to us, those are animal bite cases reported to us, are almost 85%. They're all category 3 exposure. That means bleeding wounds. They carry a little or higher risk of causing rabies. And you should also know that rabies does not give second chance. So at the first instance only, you need to provide the prophylaxis, correct prophylaxis, that too aggressively, not only depending upon only vaccine. As Professor Sudarshan said, there is an active role for the passive immunization also. It has to be taken as a very active role. We need to take care, and APCRI is in the forefront of promoting passive immunization against rabies, so that our country is get rid of the human rabies, and it is in confer with the WHO global goal of zero human rabies deaths by 2030. We have a very short time during which we need to act aggressively so that we'll reduce, because India is has got a very bad distinction of reporting highest number of human rabies deaths and also highest number of animal bites to WHO. So we are almost reporting about 1/3 of the global human rabies deaths, around 20,000 out of 59,000 occurring globally. And hence, to prevent this deadly disease, we need to have a safe and effective passive immunization, which is very, very important in rabies, and which is also affordable. It is also affordable. So let us go into the details about monoclonal antibodies. And as Professor Sudarshan said, there are two types of tools available. Mainly, we have RIGS and monoclonal antibody. Among the RIGS, we have two products, that is equine rabies immunoglobulin and human rabies immunoglobulin, which most of the practitioners are using in this country for more than 2-3 decades. So after knowing this limitation, let me go into the details about rabies monoclonal antibodies, which is a new molecules. First, let us look into the shortcomings of equine rabies immunoglobulin. Even though this product is readily manufactured indigenously in sufficient quantities, but it has got an imminent danger of going out of shelf or production, because since it's a heterologous, means produced from the horse serum, there is a animal rights activism that is going on in this country, and this may lead on to reduce production and subsequently reduce availability. So this may be a problem in the days to come. So we need to keep this in mind regarding equine rabies immunoglobulin. The second important thing is about the safety, because it is heterologous in nature. It is derived from the horse. It has got imminent danger of causing more adverse reactions, and very rarely the risk of anaphylaxis, which should not be happening with our products. And it also has got a risk of carrying the blood-borne pathogens. And since it's heterologous in nature, the anti-drug antibodies may also be produced in the subjects where this has been provided. Another important thing is, since it's heterologous in nature and it carries the risk of IgE-mediated anaphylaxis, we need to provide a skin sensitivity test. But anyway, WHO has in 2010 long back has recommended not to use a skin sensitivity test, but our product inserts, DCGI and the product inserts still mentions that it has to be provided only after skin sensitivity test. So this is one more additional procedure before giving the ERIG. The second component is HRIG. So it is not being used widely in this country because of its short availability or limited availability. And the second question is affordability, quite expensive. This we reserve only for the high income group or VVIPs. In this country, very few people have animal bites in this category, but most of the or majority of the animal bite victims in this country, they're all from the poor and poor economic background, or from just upper lower income group. So it is not a product to be used for these people. And it is also has got the risk of having a blood-borne pathogen from the human source. So these are some of the limitations of HRIG. And another important one is it is not indigenously manufactured, but it is imported in a limited quantities from abroad by 1 or 2 companies. Hence, we need to have an alternative to these immunoglobulins, mainly ERIG and HRIG. And as Professor Sudarshan said, the utility or usage of rabies immunoglobulin in this country because of these factors is very low, 10 to 10, less than 10 to 15%. So hence we need to have the new product, new molecule in the form of rabies monoclonal antibody against rabies. And WHO had long back proposed that we need to have a rabies monoclonal as an effective alternate. But it took a long time after research to arrive at this stage, and India is in the forefront of production of rabies monoclonal antibody. The first company is Serum Institute of India, which marketed rabies monoclonal antibody in 2017. In fact, I am one of the principal investigator for their phase 2 and 3 study, which has been published, and I'm going to share those results. The second product has been recently developed and launched by Zydus, and the product is also available. So we have two molecules, rabies monoclonal antibodies in the country as of now. So let us look into about these molecules in detail. I again want to reiterate that we need to have a very strong molecule or a product for passive immunization, as some of the or most of the animal bite cases that occurs in the country are category 3 exposures, and these are some of the category 3 exposures. So we cannot go wrong in providing a post-exposure prophylaxis, especially giving passive immunization. So this needs to be we need to have a very strong passive immunization tool. So to treat this kind of cases. So you can see here also, there are very, very bad animal bite cases do occur, do come to our clinics. So wherein we need to be very doubly sure that we are giving the best available medicine, especially in terms of rabies monoclonal antibody. As Professor Sudarshan said, rabies immunoglobulin administration is same as your ERIG or HRIG. So you've been doing this. So this definitely is administration, there is no difference. It is the same method, same way as you are giving ERIG and HRIG. What are the other advantages of rabies monoclonal antibodies? So this is out of a recombinant DNA technology, and this is available in adequate, sufficient quantity, because it's easier to produce. It can be accelerated in a mass scale, and quality control is much easier because it is a recombinant technology compared to ERIG and HRIG. Then it has got a reduced risk of adverse reactions and much more lower with MAB, human rabies monoclonal antibody. These are more potent than RIX and less volumes required, and no risk of bloodborne pathogens, no skin sensitive test required. And since these are new products and potent products, so we had not have the failures yet in these 3 years. In which other diseases these monoclonal antibodies are used? Multiple monoclonals have been licensed across the globe, like Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and European Medical Authority for some of the autoimmune diseases, inflammatory diseases, infections, and various types of cancers. So like it has been used in rheumatoid arthritis, it is used in breast cancer, it has been used in various types of cancers like non-Hodgkin's, lymphoma, chronic lymphocytic lymphoid leukemias, and certain infections like respiratory syncytial virus, etc. So these MABs have played a pivotal role in the treatment and prevention of these lethal diseases. So this is not a new product which has been developed now, but it has been used for various other conditions across the globe. But for rabies, it is a new molecule after rabies immunoglobulin. So let us look into these monoclonal antibodies, whether they are effectively neutralizing the rabies virus. There are two types of monoclonal antibodies which are as of now, just like you have ERIG and HRIG. Here also there are in rabies monoclonal antibodies, there are two products. One is human rabies monoclonal antibody, which is 100% human antibody, provided a dose of 3.33 IU per kg body weight, and available as 100 IU and 50 international units. And second one is murine rabies monoclonal antibody, which is available as a cocktail. So dose is 40 IU per kg body weight and available as 600 IU and 1500 IU. So this is the paper that I was telling you about, the human rabies monoclonal antibody produced indigenously and marketed by Serum Institute of India, where I was one of the principal investigator and I'm author of this article. Let us look into the results of this study in short. So this slide shows you about the effectiveness or the immunogenicity part of human rabies immunoglobulin, which is a phase 2 and 3 non-inferiority study before drug control approval. After this drug control approval, given approval for marketing this product. So when you look into this zero response, this shows the number of subjects in the trial who are responded, who are seroconverted after giving the Ravishield, that is human rabies monoclonal antibody, by which the brand name goes, and the rabies vaccine. RV stands for rabies vaccine. Here you can see the increase in seroconversion response of individuals. These are the percentage of individuals. So by day 14, almost 100% of subjects have been seroconverted when compared to the other control group. That is, this is a HRIG group plus rabies vaccine. So basically, these are two groups: Ravishield group and HRIG group, where both the group have subjects are given rabies vaccine. Here, this table, this part of the right side table shows the geometric mean titers, where the refit test has been, which is a gold standard done at Kansas laboratories in USA, wherein it shows the geometric mean titers, wherein minimum you need to have 0.5 IU per ml, so which is considered as protective. By day 14, the Ravishield group has got much more higher antibodies, 23.3 when compared to the HRIG group. So this group has got much more than the HRIG group. So you can see by day 84, all subjects had seroconverted and it still had a good antibodies. So minimum is 0.5 ml. So much more than that. Kindly note that what is important is by day 14, everybody should seroconvert and we should have a good antibody titers here. So let us look into the other second mAb, which is also given approval by drug control and available in this country. So this is a cocktail monoclonal antibody murine origin, which also been published in Clinical Infectious Diseases, which is a peer-reviewed journal. And here you also can see the seroresponse of the subjects, day 14 till day 84. And also the geometric mean titers of the subjects who have received the murine monoclonal antibody available as Twinrab here, along with the rabies vaccine, in that study. So this you can see the antibody titers from day 0 till day 84 and the seroconverter response. So another important thing is I try to compare the currently available products in the country, ERIG, HRIG, monoclonal antibodies, two brands like murine monoclonal antibody and the human rabies monoclonal antibody. So they were developed much earlier, 1960s. This was came out in 1985, and I was telling you about WHO had thought of monoclonal antibodies way back in 1980s only, but it has been taken shape now in this decade. So the source is horse serum here. This is human serum. This is a mouse antibody recombinant from murine source. This is a human antibody. The dose and potency here is ERIG 40 IU per kg body weight, HRIG 20 IU per kg body weight, murine monoclonal antibody 40 IU per kg weight, whereas the human rabies monoclonal antibody is given at 3.33 IU per kg body. So note down very less potency. When looking into the origin, ERIG is heterologous. There are chances of development of anti-drug antibodies, and HRIG is homologous. Less chances are nil. And murine, since it's murine, there is heterologous. Even though they are by recombinant technology, there may be chances of development of anti-drug antibodies and leading on to less adverse reactions. and human rabies monoclonal antibody is a homologous and from the human source. So it may or may not have any adverse reactions. So the cost and acceptability of these products, ERIG is widely used in this country because it's most economical, being used extensively in the government setup as of now. But as I told you, this has got own limitations. So because of the limitations, even though the government agencies are procuring, but it is not being effectively used in all cases. And HRIG, very expensive, hence not being used extensively, and it is a cost is not a very cost effective one, quite expensive. And presently the cocktail available product here is presently more expensive than the available competitors, the human mAb. So this human mAb is significantly more cost effective than HRIG and used in more than 18 countries because it's launched in 2018. So from the last 3 years, being widely used in this country and also exported to many countries in Asia and Africa. So what do these monoclonals achieve? What do we achieve by having this? So the availability, definitely because of increased production, because of recombinant technology, it can be made available. So definitely it will overcome the disadvantages or demerits of ERIG and HRIG. So they're absolutely safe in compared to ERIG. And only thing is, since the administration is the same as ERIG, HRIG, so our doctors need to be oriented that a lot of training programs have to be conducted to popularize the administration of this very potent passive immunization tool to reduce human rabies deaths in our country. So the another important thing is it saves a lot of time because there's no need to give a skin sensitivity test and then wait for 15 minutes and then give a full dose. And after full dose, again, make them wait to look for local and systemic adverse reactions, immediate and delayed adverse reactions. They're absolutely safe. So it will save the time and the anxiety on the infiltrating physician. And the cost also, when compared to HRIG, this is cost effective. And presently the cocktail, murine monoclonal cocktail antibody is quite expensive when compared to the competitor, human rabies monoclonal antibody. So the take-home message as of now, as I told you, that if you want to reduce human rabies deaths in this country and make a world free of rabies by 2030, so we need to make all-out efforts, especially APCRI is doing that aggressively. And a lot of training programs, a lot of hands-on training programs have been conducted. Many videos have been produced by APCRI to popularize this passive immunization so that our physicians will not have any hesitation and they administer to save lives. So this needs to be the key to prevent rabies so that we can make our world zero rabies by 2030. So thank you everyone for your patient listening. Over to Dr. Ravish, please.
Kulkarni sir, I think Ravish sir is not connected.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm sharing my screen now. Can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
I can see the slides. I can see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So can I start?
Yeah, please go ahead and start. We are waiting.
Okay. Okay.
Please.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Ashwath. And good evening, everybody. I'll be talking today on a topic which is more or less similar, but talking little hidden facets of the rabies monoclonal antibodies, which basically is a serum product, as you already heard from Dr. Ashwath and Dr. Sudarshan. So I'll start with some little basics, like what are monoclonal antibodies. So these are basically identical immunoglobulins. They are parts of the immunoglobulins, and they are generated from a single B cell clone. They recognize unique epitope or binding sites, unlike polyclonal antibodies, which bind to different epitopes in the same region. So the natural antibodies like HRIG or ERIG, they are basically made by our body or made by horse's body. They are polyclonal, and they go and bind to different regions of the antigen, as you can see from this picture. Whereas monoclonal antibodies, they are basically parts of the antibodies that go and attach to only the specific regions of the antigen where it is necessary to neutralize that particular antigen, right? And that is exactly what is rabies monoclonal antibody by Serum Institute. It goes and attaches to a certain region on the G protein, surface G protein, and then neutralizes the virus. So this is more or less like, the levo or dextro isomers that we use of medicinal products, because the racemic mixture contains 2 isomers. One isomer can be of no use, and only one isomer can be of use, and as well as the useless isomer can actually cause reactions, right? So you get rid of them, and that's why you have D-penicillamine or you have levocetirizine kind of drugs. So this is a more or less similar principle. So as Dr. Ashwath already said, there are multiple monoclonals that are licensed across the world in US and Europe for various indications. So there is huge amount of safety and efficacy data already available for last more than 2 years. So there is nothing new about this concept. It's not a new molecule or something, new concept that has been developed. So what we require, right? So do we require a single monoclonal or multiple monoclonals? And so what I have to say is that at antigens repeat several times on the virus or bacteria, the organism can be easily neutralized by single monoclonals, and that's why single monoclonals have been proven to be efficient, and that has been the case with the RSV monoclonal as well. So there is no issue about single or multiple monoclonals, and of course, if you have a single monoclonal that can bind to more than one region of the same antigen, then it is as good as having multiple monoclones. So that is not an issue at all. So coming to the monoclonals, there are different generations. So it was in the 1980s that the first monoclonal was basically kind of, you can say, discovered, and this was the first generation monoclonal that was a mouse monoclonal or a murine monoclonal, which had totally mouse proteins or antibodies, right? You can see the picture on the right hand side where you can see that all regions of this antibody are from murine origin. The second generation, and why second generation was developed? Because obviously there were issues with the murine antibodies regarding safety, as well as to some extent efficacy, and that's why a second generation was developed, which had 65% human protein and 35% mouse. You can see from this picture. Again, people wanted to get advanced in this science, and therefore humanized antibodies were made which had more than 90% regions of human origin. And then finally, it was the fourth generation or the most advanced one, where you had the fully human monoclonal antibody, which did not have any mouse regions, right? And as you see from this first generation to the fourth generation, in this particular category, there is a high potential for immunogenicity, meaning making antibodies. Now, these antibodies can have problems, like it can neutralize the antibody itself and can affect the potency of the product, and in turn can affect the efficacy of the product. Also, these antibodies can give rise to some safety issues. So this particular first generation has that issue. And as you advance from fourth generation to fourth generation, this potential goes down. The human antibodies, because they are of human origin, because they are homologous, so obviously the anti-antibody formation by our own body are almost not there. right? So that's about the different generation of monoclonals. So murine monoclonals, they are produced in mouse, as I said, and whereas human monoclonals, they are produced in transgenic mice. Now, this picture will tell you that mouse hybridoma, as you know, are tumors. So immunization targets and then harvest splenocytes, generate hybridomas, they are screened, and from them, these mouse antibodies are produced. Whereas here in the transgenic mice, you immunize the mice, harvest splenocytes, get the hybridomas, screen them, and what you get, because they are transgenic mouse, human monoclonal antibodies, right? And as a result, they are not foreign to human body, and naturally there is no anti-drug antibody produced, and therefore there are the least risk of EDS are less with this. This is a publication where you can see that the foreignness and high dose increases risk of ADS as well as human reactions. It has been already said, and factors to be considered during immunogenicity risk assessment of a biotherapeutic, because this issue is applicable not only for rabies monoclonal, but it is applicable for any protein that is developed by recombinant technology. For example, erythropoietin or GCSF, right, or various monoclonal antibodies that we saw earlier. All these kind of recombinantly derived proteins, if they are their characteristic is foreign, it's a foreign to human host, then obviously there is a risk of immunogenicity, meaning generation of antibodies, right? In this case, immunogenicity is not taken in a good way, unlike in the when we talk about vaccines, we talk about immunogenicity as in a good way, because those immune response is going to generate antibodies and will give protection. Whereas in these proteins, which are therapeutic in nature, if there are antibodies produced by the protein itself, by the antibody itself, then they are going to be actually detrimental, right? Even the higher dose can be a problem in generating these antibodies, which can again affect the whole thing. So what are the safety issues with this murine antibody? Anti-drug antibodies seen with these murine monoclonals, they are not desirable, as I said, and they can cause rarely hypersensitivity reactions and other ADRs. There is a risk of serum sickness like ADS, which, as you already heard, is also a risk with ERICs. If required to use MABs again in future, then this existing ADAs, because once you give them, the body will produce these ADAs, and whenever next time you are going to use that particular monoclonal again, then those ADAs are going to neutralize the antibody. So, of course, it does not mean that in rabies you are going to get passive immunization only once, because as per WHO recommendation, in immunocompromised patients, even if you have received immunoglobulin in the past, if you have a re-exposure, then again you are supposed to give MABs again or RIG again. So these people are going to get repeated RIG or repeated MABs, and in this situation, these antibodies can be a problem. Also, sometimes, and in fact, many times we know that the compliance is not great. People do not complete their full schedule of 5 doses. And if such people get again re-exposed to a dog bite or something, in that case, because they are not completed the schedule, then again you'll have to start this as with a schedule that is meant for a completely fresh exposure, which means that again you are going to use the RIG or MAB again. And there again, if you have those antibodies, they are going to be a problem. So foreignness and high dose we talked about, and therefore, because of all these issues, obviously, the scientific world developed the chimeric and humanized, and then finally the fully human monoclonals. So as we saw that we have one fully human antibody already in India since 2017. The dose is 3.33 I per kg. Whereas recently a murine antibody cocktail has also been developed, which is a first generation antibody and available only this year. And the dose is 40 I per kg. So the dose is higher than the rabies monoclonal antibody, which is the first one that was licensed. So safety issues with this. This is another article which is published in the journal called Antibody Technology Journal. And what does it say about the mouse antibodies, where the full length is of mouse origin? So initially, the first generation of mouse-derived MAPs suffered side effects due to an unwanted immune reactions in humans. They referred to as human anti-mouse antibody response. This response, characterized by fever, chills, arthralgia, anaphylaxis, was similar to the serum sickness observed several decades earlier with antimal antisera. This is what we saw about with ERI, right? So it's similar to that. So the full promise of murine antibodies could be realized by engineering to humanize murine antibodies to make them less immunogenic and safer. This is what this article says. So everybody agrees that there are these issues. Native human MAPs full length, these are non-immunogenic molecules that essentially retain all the desirable quantities of murine monoclonals. They are ideally suited for prophylaxis because they undergo affinity maturation in vivo and represent the natural immunoglobulin reproduction. Right? This is what this article says, because they are exactly like the natural antibodies that are produced. There is one more article in PLOS, Neglected Tropical Diseases. What do they say? They say that our preliminary in vivo studies, and this is about the particular cocktail that is now there available, that in vivo studies with the cocktails provided encouraging results. However, it could be presumed that the use of such antibodies in humans might have limitations, as with ERI. So they are equating these antibodies with ERI because of the potential of foreign proteins to cause side effects. Human MAPs would be preferential. However, more MAPs can be readily humanized, right? And this is what has already happened. The human antibodies are already there. Also, their unknown compartmentalization, half-life, as well as immunogenicity in humans is supposed to prevent MOMAPs from being ideal replacement for the existing reagents, right? So this is what this particular article said, that the murine antibodies cannot be an ideal replacement to ERI or even to HIV. So fully a human antibody, let's see a little bit of them. The manufacturing process is basically, as I said, they use specially genetically engineered transgenic mice. The mice DNA is modified to include the human antibody gene, and then their own mouse AB genes, they are blocked, so they cannot make mouse antibodies. They can only make human antibodies, and then they will produce only human antibodies, and that is what will be used as a completely human monoclonal antibody, right? And this is what the transgenic mice is. Why it is transgenic? Because the human gene has been included in their body, and now they will start producing human antibodies and not mouse antibodies. There are multiple human antibodies already in use for various indications. As I said, they can only produce human antibodies. They are injected with the protein with which, against which you have to be produce antibody. So obviously they are given rabies vaccine, and then the mouse antibody will produce the human antibody, human monoclonal. And then these antibodies are converted into monoclonal cells, and the monoclonal antibodies produced are fully human, and they are extremely safe and effective. How do they work? They bind and neutralize the rabies virus present in the wound. They bind the rabies monoclonal, the rabies shield, which is already there since last 3 years. It binds to 2 sites, right? So it's not only one site, and therefore that makes it more powerful. Site 3 and minus site A. Therefore, there is absolutely no chance of any escape mutants, which is always the scare that people think of, but that is not at all the case. So this prevents the viral entry into peripheral nervous system and reduces viral load at the site and offers immediate protection. And it has been found this particular antibody active against all rabies serotypes or strains that are found in India and also in Asia. And in fact, I'll be telling a little bit more about this. So this antibody neutralizes broad panel of isolates, and it has been studied in comparison with HRIC in CDC Atlanta, and 25 different isolates were neutralized. This has been tested in an animal model of Syrian hamsters, which was challenged with wild virus. There was a comparison with HRIC, and the protection given was similar. So hamster model, of course, as you know, is very, very predictive. So these are various strains across the world that were tested from different countries, as you can see, North Central, and different animal species, not just dogs, but fox, skunk, raccoon, coyotes, bats, dogs from different countries like Argentina, Gabon, and all these isolates were neutralized, right? 17C7, that is the antibody, the Rabishil antibody. In Asia as well, you can see that various strains from Nepal, Sri Lanka, India, Canada, all got neutralized, MBL-RAB1. This was presented in RITA in 2008. So this is the publication that came out of it. So HUMAP 17C7 was the most promising antibody because it neutralized all rabies virus isolates tested, and this recognizes a conformational epitope as the serum virus glycoprotein, which includes antigenic site 3 and protected hamsters from a lethal dose of rabies virus, right? So this publication was from the University of Massachusetts, and also CDC was part of this publication, right? So advantages of this antibody over RIGs, it's safer than ERIG, obviously, and also with unlimited supply because it is made in laboratory from CHO cells, Chinese hamster ovary cells. Not a foreign antibody, unlike ERIGs. Volume required is very low because the dose is very low, and naturally then it becomes a very cost-effective alternative to HRIG. Also, this is the most advanced 4th generation human antibody. It's not a foreign antibody like murine again. No risk of serum sickness like ADRs, which can be seen with murines. And also the dose is very low. Again, the similar kind of advantages that we see vis-a-vis ERIG, right? Also more economical, though it is the most advanced molecule, still it is the most economical product, very safe, no anti-drug antibodies, and it is being used in more than 18 countries, and hundreds of more than 200,000 vials have been used, and there have been no safety issues at all. There have been no cases reported of any failure of the treatment. So obviously it is being safe and effective. Anti-drug antibodies are with murine antibodies are undesirable. As we saw, they can cause hypersensitivity reaction, other areas, and we saw that because the MAPs can be used again, then efficacy will be compromised. And then, of course, because of the high dose, this kind of reactions may increase. So escape mutants, we talked a little bit about it. Virus escape means MAB is unable to neutralize the virus, leading to its escape, and that of course can happen when you give it the second time. May occur if the antibody binds only to one site, but we already saw that it binds to two sites, site 3 and minus site A, and therefore 2 mutations are required for any virus to escape. And the possibility of this happening, that 2 mutations happening at the same time, are practically 0. So there is no chance of escape mutant. That's one. Second thing, unlike other viruses where you may have this fear, let's say RSV, that somebody gets this antibody, and then there is a development of escape mutant when he gets the antibody again, and this particular virus then gets into the environment and then infects others, and that is a big concern. That is not an issue with rabies also, because as you know, rabies is 100% fatal disease. So obviously that particular virus getting into the environment or getting into the dogs is just not possible. But in any case, because this is acting at 2 different sites, there is practically no chance of any escape mutant. So this is the picture. These are the antigenic sites, and these are the site 3 and site A, where this particular rabies shield or human 17C7 it binds, right? So there is no concern about escape mutants at all. This is one more paper which says that the data demonstrate that the antibody has capacity to neutralize all identified isolates, and minimum of 2 distinct mutations in the G glycoprotein are required for abrogation of neutralization. So which is again almost near impossibility. Cost effectiveness is the key, therapy costs, because as we know, poor people are the ones who get affected the most. So though they are the most advanced, they are the cheapest alternative. You have 2 strains, 150 IU, so you can, in younger children, obviously you can use the smaller vial size, and at price at 1,000 rupees, obviously, it becomes a very, very cheap alternative, right? So this is in general the patient cost, as you can see. So ERI, then human maps, then murine maps, and then HRI. So even on the cost front, this antibody scores. So to summarize, human maps is a safer and better alternative. It has neutralized almost all the rabies viruses in the world that are circulating, and established safety, unlimited easy availability. We already saw the data presented by Dr. Ashwath, and where it showed better immune titers compared to HRIG, as well as there were no serious reactions caused in that particular study. The production quality is very standard, which is unlike any blood-derived products. Lesser cost as compared to HRIG, also as compared to murine. Lesser volume requirement, and because of this, of course, there is less chances of compartment syndrome, and there is no chance of blood-borne pathogens. And therefore, just like we moved away from the nerve tissue vaccines to tissue culture vaccines, right? Nobody even remembers nerve tissue vaccines anymore. This is a high time, really high time, that to move from the ERI towards human maps. Also, similarly, I don't know how many of you remember that the first hepatitis B vaccine that was developed was plasma-derived hepatitis B vaccine, which was made similarly like HRI. From the volunteers, the blood was drawn and then the vaccine was made. And in the late 1980s, recombinant hepatitis B vaccine was made, and that particular vaccine completely revolutionized the picture. Nobody even remembers the plasma-derived hepatitis B vaccine. It is exactly the same situation. So we need to move away from ERI and get to a very, very modern, scientifically proven, and most advanced molecule like human rabies monoclonal antibody. Right? Thank you so much for your kind attention. Over to you, Dr. Ravish. You are on mute.
Dr. Ravish, ಇದು unmute ಮಾಡಿ.
Yes, sir. Done. Is it audible, sir?
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you,
Yes,
Dr.
yes.
Prasad Kulkarni, sir. Now we will move on to questions fast, because we have more than 150 questions. In that, I'll choose only few of them, because most of them have been covered already in the presentations. Can we take up one by one?
Yes, please.
Thank you. The first question will be to Dr. Ashwath Narayan, sir. Any evidence of effect of post-exposure prophylaxis on COVID-19?
Effect of COVID-19, we have not studied that, but
Ashwath Narayan, sir?
yeah. Am I audible, right? Hello. Yeah. So COVID-19, in spite of this
Yes,
having a pandemic, we are treating animal bite cases. They are coming, and they have not had any adverse reactions so far. But anyway, it's a good question that we'll study. We'll study those the safety and efficacy of these rabies monoclonals or rabies immunobiologicals among the so-called COVID-affected subjects. So it's a good for research.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Then the next question is, in class 3 animal bites, we give rabies immunoglobulin. It is already been told by Sudarshan, sir. Once again, to re-impress, we give rabies immunoglobulin and rabies vaccine, both of them. One is an antibody and another is an antigen. Does there will be any problem in the protection? Sudarshan, sir, please.
No, okay. Actually, you see, if immunoglobulins are given beyond 7th day of starting the vaccine, that is after 3 doses, then there will be an interference with the active immunity, that is the vaccine effect. So if the guidelines are followed, then they are non-interfering and they are complementary in nature. Over.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question to Dr. Active and passive immunization regimen as in India as per WHO guidelines, sir.
To me again.
Sir, either you or Ashwath Narayan sir can tell,
yeah,
sir.
Because anyway, I request Ashwath Narayan to answer. Over.
Can I repeat the question, Dr. Ravish?
Sir, as per WHO, is there any change in active and passive immunization regimens in India?
Okay, as far as vaccination is concerned, there's no change either with IM regimen or giving intradermal. But as far as passive immunization is concerned, the monoclonal antibodies have not been recommended by Government of India or under NRCP because they want to, they recommended testing after in a multicentric studies. And regarding the immunoglobulin administration, they have recommended that since, as Sudarshan sir said, once it is given systemically, it's of no use. It is got more effective only when it is locally infiltrated. So either based upon the requirement of the immunoglobulin or MAB, based upon the number and type of wounds, it will be more effective only when injected locally. So under Government of India NRCP guidelines by NCDC, they are not to be used for systemic administration. Only, yeah.
Can I just answer from my side, Dr. Ravish?
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, you see, the problem with NCDC is, I know this program is being recorded, I have no issues. The left hand doesn't recognize the right hand. See, what I mean to say is when the DCGI has permitted the product to be available, whether it is Ravishield or whether it is Twinrab, let me be very frank. It makes no sense to say that these products are not recommended. And even in government hospitals through local procurements, and I think Prasad Kulkarni will be able to throw more light on this, that such decisions come in the way of a good and a very effective rabies prophylaxis in the country. So I think some wisdom must come in decision makers to be very wise in promoting good rabies prophylaxis and prevent human rabies deaths in the country. So anyway, I think I have been very forthright and I have been frank. I think Dr. Prasad Kulkarni in his sober and moderate way has to handle this issue and then move on to the next question. Over.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question once again will be you or Dr. Ashwath Narayan, sir. Can infiltration of RIGs be done in areas where there are abundant neurovascular structures like that in axilla? Sir.
Yeah. Is it over? Question is over?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's all.
Yeah. See, since rabies is 100% fatal, there are no contraindications for infiltration or even providing the post-exposure prophylaxis. So wherever the animal bites are there, so since rabies virus has got a special affinity towards the nerves, so there is every chance that the rabies virus may enter through the nerves. So your question is more important, that it has to be infiltrated wherever it is, especially where there are more nerves.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Wherever,
sir,
I'll just add one second, Dr. Ravish. I'll add one more sentence. Sir. So as per the guidelines, as Professor Sudarshan said, wherever anatomically feasible. So that is the bottom line. Wherever anatomically feasible, rabies immunoglobulin or monoclonal antibodies should be infiltrated. Yes.
Okay.
Over from my side.
Thank you, sir. Next question will be for Prasad Kulkarni, sir. Have you come across any severe reactions to RMAB?
No, I already mentioned you that number of doses have been distributed across various countries. there has not been a single serious reaction that has been reported, and also no case of any rabies development. So the antibody is working fine. No safety issues, no efficacy issues at all. And just want to make one comment to the last question regarding the rabies monoclonal antibody. I don't know whether it has been covered already, but WHO in their position paper has clearly said that the first rabies monoclonal antibody that has been licensed in India has been found safe and efficacious, and if available, it should be preferred over the RIGs. That is what they have clearly written in the position paper.
Sir, next question, once again, it is for you only, sir. Is the Rabi Shield going for any pre-qualification from WHO?
So actually, pre-qualification WHO program is currently only meant for vaccines. They don't pre-qualify immunoglobulins or antibodies. So even HREG, EREG, they are not pre-qualified. They are thinking of starting a program for these kind of products. I've been hearing that for last 2-3 years. Let's see when exactly that happens. But the crux of the thing is that WHO has already recommended Rabi Shield over other RIG products. That is unambiguously written in their position paper.
Sir, next question once again for you only, sir. Has Rabi Shield been used in any other countries? If so, how many countries, and were there any problem in those countries?
So as I already showed in the slides, 18 countries have already received the product. They have been using it, and there have been no issues reported from any of these countries.
The next question, anyhow, you have answered. Once again, it is question for Ashwath Narayan, sir. Is Rabi Shield required in class 2 bites also?
Yeah, so in immunocompromised individuals, since the vaccines may not be effective, either you can give immunoglobulin or rabies immunoglobulin or monoclonal antibodies. The answer is yes.
Dr. Ravish, I have to leave because I have to have another webinar at 6:30. So
Yes,
is there
sir,
a pressing question for me? If it is
no, sir, I think I have covered all your questions.
Okay, great.
That's right. That's right.
So please excuse me, Sudarshan sir, Ashwath sir, and
Yes,
Ravish.
thank you.
Thank you very
sir.
much.
Thank
Bye,
you,
bye,
sir.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello.
Yeah, please continue, Dr. Ravish.
Can I continue? The next question is to Sudarshan, sir. A patient has a history of dog bite and took ARV 1 or 2 doses and injection Equirap, both 6 months back. Again, he is bitten by dog at more than 2 sites with severe bleeding. What is the management?
See, we take that the previous 2 doses of vaccine is incomplete, and a proper risk assessment has to be done and shall be treated as a fresh case. Over.
The next question, of course, it has already been covered. Anyhow, once again, to reiterate, is there any change in NCDC regarding the classification of wound?
No.
Sir, once again, next question to Ashwath Narayan, sir. Is there any role of 2 vaccines given on day 0 without rabies immunoglobulin?
2 doses of rabies vaccine is not a substitute or alternative for rabies immunoglobulin. So rabies immunoglobulin has to be given at the earliest in all category 3 exposures. Over.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, why only monoclonal antibodies have come? Why not polyclonal antibodies?
Is for me?
I will answer. It's okay.
Yes,
You see, the ERIG and HRIG are, in a sense, they are polyclonal only. I think Dr. Prasad Kulkarni has made it clear in his presentation. To reiterate it, polyclonal antibodies were already available in the form of ERIG and HRIG. The monoclonal antibodies have appeared in the form of Rabies Shield and Twinrab. Over.
Thank you, sir. Is there any role of observation of dog even today after starting the vaccination, or we go ahead with the complete course of vaccination? Sudarshan, sir, please.
You see, we have to, as rabies is 100% fatal, following a exposure, we take the exposure as a life-threatening situation, and we start rabies prophylaxis. That is category 3 immunoglobulin and vaccine, category 2 only vaccine, wound management in both the groups. So then after day 3, if the dog is available, then I think we recommend that a fourth dose may be given, converting the post-exposure prophylaxis into a pre-exposure vaccination. So this is one of the recommendation, but to make it little more complicated and in the new situation where 1 week regimen has come, ID has come, only 037 has come, and they are considered 3 doses of vaccine is considered adequate, and they are sufficient to produce immunological memory, and any subsequent doses of vaccine will elicit a anamnestic response. If somebody wants to stop at 3 doses, 037, and patient cannot afford the 4th dose, he can still leave a message with the patient that he has taken 3 doses of vaccine, and this should be considered adequate to be considered as a priming immunizing dose for an anamnestic response for a future rabies exposure and a 2-dose booster. I think though it is little tricky, I have tried to make it simple, but I think if Ashwath Narayan wants to say anything, or even Dr. Ravish, you can also make it more simplified or explain it in your own way. It is welcome. Over.
Yes, sir. The similar related question is also there, sir. They've asked whether you can avoid all these confusions and take that following up of animals recommendation and straightforwardly recommend only 1 dose, which will not be confusing.
You mean to say 1 regimen?
Yes, sir.
No, I think you see, rabies biologicals are also expensive and not affordable, and sometimes not available in interior remote areas and all. So risk, that's why we say that a risk assessment should be done, and accordingly the rabies prophylaxis has to be tailored. So we cannot make a blanket recommendation and waste rabies biologicals. Over.
Thank you, sir. The next question to Ashwath Narayan, sir. It is simple. I think you have already told. Once again, does rodent bite and others require
Hello.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ತಾಳಿ, ರವೀಶ್ಗೆ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಅದೇನೋ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಟೀಮ್ ಏನೋ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಅದು 6:30ಗೆ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಗೋಯ್ತಾ ನೋಡಿ. 6:30 ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೋಗಿದೆ. They might have taken the program for 1.5 hours.
Oh,
Timed the program for 1.5 hours. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕೇಳಿ, ನಾನು ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
The moderator is disconnected. You both can continue discussing if there is.
Okay, we'll continue, but how to see the questions? Let me see. Okay. I think Dr. Ashwath Narayan, are you able to see the questions?
No, sir. I'm not
The
able to see
chat
the
box.
question.
So even I am not able to see. So
I'm
what
not
we
able to
will
see.
do is, the audience is in another room.
Dr. Ashwath, we can share the questions with you on chat.
Yeah, please share it with Ashwath Narayan. Yeah.
It is there, sir, in the chat.
Yeah, I will pick up randomly. Can we give rabies shield to 5 days old baby? Yes, answer is yes. As rabies is 100% fatal, there's no contraindication. Age is not a contraindication. Sex is not a contraindication. It can be given. It can be given safely to even to newborn baby. The next question is things that has to be done when we get a case of serum sickness, first line medication. So this serum sickness like reactions usually do occur when we provide heterologous medicine, especially the ERIG. Usually it occurs around 7 days, first week after providing the ERIG. So we need to provide analgesics, antihistamines to these subjects. Yeah, I think Dr. Ravish is back.
Yes, sir. Can I continue? Is it audible?
Yes, Ravish.
Yes, very clear.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Why? Next question is to Dr. Ashwath Narayan, sir.
Yeah.
Why is APCRI not recommending the use of RMAP straight away and stop the use of REGs?
We have not come out with any guidelines. We definitely promote, as in my presentation I said, APCRI is there aggressively promoting passive immunization, not only RIGs, even the monoclonal antibodies. We are supporting both the products, all the RIGs and also monoclonal antibodies. But we have to go by national guidelines. But it is left to the individual practitioners to use it because they have that medical degree. And APCRI fully recommend all the products which have been approved and recommended by Drug Controller of India.
Once again, the related question, sir, for you.
No, Dr. Ravish, 1 minute.
Yes,
I think, you see, I am these days getting outspoken.
Yes, sir.
Consortium Against Rabies have come out with a guidelines.
Yes, sir.
Am I clear? So I
Yes,
recommend APCRI also to come out with a guideline that incorporates
Yes, sir.
best parts of WHO and Government of India. To repeat, the best parts of WHO and Government of India, or any other thing which the executive committee considers good for India, should be incorporated and shall be brought out as a APCR. You see, Indian Academy of Pediatrics, they are coming out with a guideline. If you remember, in 2007 or 8 or 9, we had come out with the guidelines for use of rabies.
Children.
Yeah. RIG, passive rabies, RIG guideline booklet. I think it is there even today. So
Yes,
my
sir.
request and my submission is, please come out with a guideline for rabies prophylaxis in the context of some confusions like this that is there, and also more so in the context of already CAR has brought out one guideline. Over.
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
And the question, of course, Prasad Kulkarni sir is not there. If Manish Wadhwa sir can answer, there is an important question for him. Can Manish Wadhwa sir can answer this?
Now, what is the question? If
I'll
possible?
read the question.
Yeah.
Can you make RMAPs available even at the rural areas or at the primary health center level?
It's a marketing question. It's
Yes,
a
sir.
marketing question. If
Yes,
there's
sir,
a
that's
need, I
true.
think they will do it. Accessibility, and they will make available.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Next question, please. Yeah.
Next.
Sir, what is the half-life of RMAP?
If I remember, I think it's 2 years.
See,
2
what
years,
he's
sir?
asking, no. He's asking half-life.
Oh, off-life. Sorry,
Half-life,
sir.
not expiry.
Oh, okay. Shelf life. Not the shelf life. Okay, half-life. Half-life.
Okay. No, 1 minute. See, I think Prasad Kulkarni would have been the best person. If I remember, it is around 4 weeks. But anyway, let us go to the website of Serum Institute of India, refer to the Rabi Shield and also the Trinidad half-life. Over. Pardon?
Yeah, Manish is on phone.
Yeah, please.
Yes, Manish.
Anyway, Dr. Ravish, you can always get back to this question. It's an important question. Yeah, over. You can go to the next question. Yeah, please.
See, as far as supply is concerned, there is no problem at all. We can definitely make it available. We are already working with many state governments in their tenders and all that, and we have got success also. So the EP government and the Telangana government all have already included Rabi Shield, and we have started supplies also. Yes, we can definitely make it available across the country. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, sir. The next question, sir. Hello.
Dr. Ravish,
Sir.
as I told you, I think it is around 3 to 4 weeks. But anyway, we will get it confirmed offline. Yeah. Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
I will read the last question, sir. It is 185th question. What is to be done if dog bite occurs again after some interval of full immunization? Sudarshan, sir, please. Time interval for booster vaccination
See,
after re-exposure.
that the World Health Organization and Government of India recommendation is in a person who has received course post-exposure prophylaxis or a full course pre-exposure or pre-bite prophylaxis previously, and if the person is re-exposed, that is bitten once again or exposed to rabies in a different way, within 90 days only, that is 3 months, only good wound management is adequate and no immunization, no vaccine or no immunoglobulin is indicated. This is the recommendation. If it is beyond 3 months, that is 90 days, then such individuals require 2 doses of vaccine either by intramuscular route or by intradermal route. First dose on day 0, second dose on day 3, and in these re-exposed individuals, no immunoglobulin is required. So this is the recommendation. However, the treating physician shall do a proper risk assessment in terms of severity of exposure, the nature of the biting animal, its availability, and any delay in visiting the clinic and any malpractices or bad practices like application of the any applicant to the wound or suturing of the wound. In such situations, I think one need to very carefully and critically evaluate the risk of rabies vis-a-vis these guidelines and take a independent professional decision in the best interest of his or her patient. Over.
Sir, thank you very much. With this, we can come to an end of this session. Thanks all the speakers once again for giving a detailed information and answering most of the questions. Thank you very much, sir. Sudarshan sir, Ashwath Narayan sir, and Prasad Kulkarni sir.
Yeah,
Now
thank
it is
you. Thank
over to the, thank you, sir. Now it is over to the organizers.
Yes, I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Sudarshan, Dr. Ashwath, and Dr. Ravish for the wonderful talk and excellent moderation, sir. And let us all work together to make rabies really history, so that we really help in achieving that goal of 0 by 30. Thank you so much.
One last question from my side. How many persons attended this webinar?
Total, there were about 580 odd.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Manish ji. Have a nice
Yes.
evening. You have done a
Yeah.
wonderful job by organizing this webinar at a very short notice. Thank you very much. Over. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manish.
Thank the audience